The WNBA just dropped a nuclear bomb that nobody saw coming, and if you're a Caitlin Clark fan, you need to hear this right now because everything is about to change. Sandy Brondello, the championship-winning mastermind who just got mysteriously fired by the New York Liberty, could be heading straight to Indiana, and the league is absolutely terrified of what happens next. This isn't just another coaching change. This is the move that could turn Caitlin Clark from a rookie sensation into an unstoppable force that breaks every record in the book. If you think the Fever should grab Brondello before someone else does, smash that like button right now and let me know in the comments. Here's what makes this situation absolutely insane. The Liberty just won their first championship in franchise history just a few months ago in 2024, and now in January 2025, they're throwing away the architect of that success. Sandy Brondello didn't just coach them to a title, she transformed them from laughingstocks to champions in just 3 seasons. She posted 107 wins against 53 losses, took them to 2 finals appearances, and delivered the ring that New York had been chasing for 27 years. And then they fired her. No warning, no explanation that makes sense, just goodbye. The players are furious, the fans are rioting online, and every other team in the league is scrambling to figure out how they can steal her. But that wasn't the whole story, because what happened behind closed doors is even more shocking. Sources close to the situation are saying that Brondello and the Liberty's general manager had been clashing for months over control of the roster. She wanted more say in player acquisitions, she wanted to bring in specific veterans who could mentor the younger stars, and most importantly, she refused to be a yes woman who just nodded along with whatever management wanted. The tension reached a breaking point after their playoff exit when Brondello reportedly told ownership that they needed to make major changes or risk wasting their championship window. Instead of listening, they showed her the door. What makes this even crazier is that Brondello's players were ready to go to war for her. Brianna Stewart, who's now a free agent by the way, publicly backed her coach multiple times. Sabrina Ionescu, also hitting free agency, said Brondello had their backs through everything. Jonquel Jones praised her leadership during the toughest stretches of the season. These aren't role players making nice comments. These are superstars who would have run through walls for their coach. And now they're all questioning whether they even want to stay in New York. Stewart has already been linked to multiple teams. Ionescu's camp is reportedly exploring options, and the Liberty might have just blown up their entire dynasty because they couldn't handle a coach who spoke her mind. Here's where Indiana enters the picture and why this could be the most important moment in franchise history. The Fever currently have Stephanie White as their coach, and look, she's fine, but fine doesn't win championships when you have a generational talent like Caitlin Clark. White went 13-27 in her first season back with Indiana, and while there were improvements, the team still looked lost at times. Clark would have these incredible moments where she'd take over games, but there was no consistent system to maximize her abilities. She'd be forced into bad shots because the offensive sets were predictable. She'd get trapped because teammates weren't in the right spots. And worst of all, she wasn't being developed properly as a point guard who could control the entire flow of the game. Now imagine Sandy Brondello coaching Caitlin Clark. This is a coach who turned Sabrina Ionescu from a talented player into an MVP candidate. She knows how to build offenses around elite guards who can shoot from anywhere and create for others. She understands spacing, she gets how to use screens to free up shooters, and most importantly, she knows how to put players in positions where their strengths are maximized and their weaknesses are hidden. Clark wouldn't just be taking logo threes and making flashy passes, she'd be running sophisticated sets that get her easy looks. She'd have actual plays designed specifically for her skill set, and she'd be learning from someone who's won at the highest level. But what happened next would shock everyone because the rumors started flying immediately after Brondello's firing. Multiple sources are reporting that Indiana's ownership group held an emergency meeting within hours of the news breaking. They know this opportunity doesn't come around often. You don't get chances to hire championship coaches who are still in their prime and hungry to prove people wrong. The Fever have the cap space, they have the young talent, and most importantly, they have Caitlin Clark as the ultimate recruiting tool. What coach wouldn't want to build around a player who's already revolutionizing the game in her second season? The league office is watching this situation with pure panic because they know what happens if Brondello and Clark team up. Think about it, the WNBA has been desperately trying to create parity, to spread the talent around so multiple teams can compete. They don't want another super team. They don't want one franchise dominating everything. But if Indiana gets Brondello, they're not just getting a coach, they're getting a magnet for free agents. Players want to play for coaches who win, who develop talent, who create cultures where everyone thrives. Suddenly, Indiana goes from a rebuilding team to a destination. Aaliyah Boston is already an elite defender and rebounder who would flourish in Brondello's system. Kelsey Mitchell provides the secondary scoring threat. Add a coach who knows how to maximize all that talent, and you're looking at a team that could dominate for the next decade. Here's the part that should terrify every other team in the league. Sandy Brondello has connections everywhere. She coached in Phoenix where she won a championship. She's worked with international teams. She knows every agent, every player, every assistant coach in the business. If she goes to Indiana, she's bringing people with her. Maybe it's an elite assistant coach who specializes in player development. Maybe it's a strength and conditioning expert who kept the Liberty healthy during their championship run. Maybe it's insider knowledge about which free agents are unhappy with their current situations and looking for a change. This isn't just hiring a coach, it's importing an entire winning infrastructure. The timing couldn't be more perfect for Indiana either. They're coming off a season where they showed flashes of brilliance but lacked consistency. Clark proved she belongs at the elite level. Boston continued developing into one of the best bigs in the game, and the supporting cast showed they could contribute when put in the right positions. But they need someone who can tie it all together, someone who can take raw talent and turn it into a championship contender. Stephanie White had her chance, and while nobody's saying she's terrible, she's clearly not on Brondello's level. This is like having a decent car that gets you from point A to point B, and then someone offers you a Ferrari for the same price. You don't think twice, you make the move. What's even more interesting is how this could affect the entire free agency landscape. Remember those Liberty stars I mentioned who are hitting the market? What if they followed Brondello to Indiana? Imagine Breanna Stewart, one of the best players in WNBA history, deciding she wants to team up with Caitlin Clark under the coach she trusts most. Or Sabrina Ionescu, who already has chemistry with Brondello, joining forces with Clark to create the most lethal backcourt the league has ever seen. These aren't just fantasy scenarios, these are real possibilities that have executives around the league losing sleep. The financial implications are massive too. Indiana has been smart with their cap space, they've got room to make moves, and ownership has already shown they're willing to spend when it matters. They saw what Clark did for attendance and merchandise sales in her rookie year. Now imagine what happens when you pair her with a championship coach and potentially elite free agents. We're talking about selling out every game, national television deals, jersey sales through the roof. This isn't just about basketball, it's about turning the Fever into one of the most valuable franchises in professional women's sports. But here's where the conspiracy theories start flying, and honestly, they might not be that crazy. Some people are saying the Liberty's decision to fire Brondello wasn't really about basketball at all. There are whispers that ownership wanted a coach who would be more marketable, someone who would play nice with corporate sponsors and league initiatives. Brondello is old school, she cares about winning above everything else, and she doesn't have time for the political games that come with coaching in a major market. Maybe New York wanted someone who would prioritize growing the brand over growing the trophy case. If that's true, it's the dumbest decision in professional sports history. The reaction from current and former players tells you everything you need to know. Diana Taurasi, who won a championship under Brondello in Phoenix, immediately posted on social media calling the firing ridiculous. Sue Bird, now working as an analyst, said on her podcast that this was the most shocking move she's seen in her entire career. Even players who have no connection to Brondello or the Liberty are speaking out because they recognize how insane this is. You don't fire coaches who win championships unless there's something seriously wrong behind the scenes, and so far, nobody can figure out what that something might be. For Caitlin Clark specifically, this could be the opportunity that defines her entire career. She's already proven she can score from anywhere. She can make passes that nobody else even sees, and she can take over games when it matters most. But imagine what she becomes with proper coaching. Brondello could teach her how to control tempo, how to manipulate defenses, how to get her teammates involved while still maintaining her scoring aggression. We're talking about taking a player who's already special and turning her into someone who could legitimately challenge for MVP honors in her third season. That's not hyperbole. That's what happens when elite talent meets elite coaching. The defensive improvements alone would be worth the hire. Clark has all the tools to be a good defender. She's got quick hands, good instincts, and the intelligence to understand schemes teams. But she needs someone who can teach her positioning, who can show her how to use her length effectively, who can build a system that hides her when she's beaten and maximizes her strengths when she's locked in. Brondello did exactly that with guards in New York, turning average defenders into plus contributors. Imagine what she could do with someone as talented and motivated as Clark. And let's not forget about the cultural impact this would have. The Fever would go from being a young team trying to figure things out to a legitimate destination with championship DNA. Free agents would want to come play there, veteran ring chasers would take pay cuts to join the party, and suddenly Indiana becomes the center of the basketball universe. The stories write themselves. The legendary coach who got disrespected teams up with the young superstar to prove everyone wrong. That's not just compelling basketball, that's must-watch television that grows the entire sport. The clock is ticking though, because Indiana isn't the only team interested. The Los Angeles Sparks need a coach, the Chicago Sky might make a change, and there are whispers that Phoenix might try to bring Brondello back for a reunion tour. Every day that passes without the Fever making a move is another day for competition to swoop in. This isn't a situation where you can wait and see how things develop. This is a moment where you have to be aggressive, where you have to recognize opportunity and seize it before someone else does. What makes this even more urgent is that the 2025 season is shaping up to be the most competitive in WNBA history. The Las Vegas Aces are still loaded, the Connecticut Sun have been building something special, and teams like Seattle and Phoenix are one move away from being serious contenders. If Indiana wants to make the leap from promising young team to actual championship threat, they need to make a splash now. Hiring Sandy Brondello would send a message to the entire league that the Fever are done rebuilding and ready to win now. The potential starting lineup under Brondello is absolutely terrifying for opponents. Caitlin Clark running the point with complete freedom to create, Kelsey Mitchell as the shooting guard who can score in bunches, a versatile forward who can defend multiple positions, Aaliyah Boston controlling the paint on both ends, and another big who can stretch the floor. That's a modern basketball dream, perfectly balanced between shooting, playmaking, and defense. Add Brondello's tactical brilliance, and you're looking at a team that could win 60% of their games minimum. But here's the thing that nobody's talking about yet. What if this was all planned? What if Brondello knew she was getting fired and already has a handshake deal with Indiana? What if the Liberty's ownership made such an obviously bad decision because they were somehow convinced it was the right move by people who wanted to see Brondello land elsewhere? These are the kinds of questions that make you wonder if there's more to this story than meets the eye. The timing is too perfect, the fit is too obvious, and the reactions from around the league are too uniform for this to be completely random. The impact on merchandise and marketing would be astronomical. Caitlin Clark jerseys are already the top sellers in the league, but imagine the boost when she's playing for a legitimate contender with a championship coach. The Fever would become must-see TV. Their road games would sell out arenas across the country, and suddenly Indiana becomes the face of the WNBA's new era. That's not just good for the Fever, it's good for the entire league, even if they won't admit it publicly. This is the kind of move that changes everything, that shifts the balance of power for the next decade. If you think Indiana should make this happen, if you want to see Caitlin Clark reach her full potential under a championship coach, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment telling me why this needs to happen. The WNBA is at a crossroads right now, and the decision Indiana makes in the next few days could determine whether we see a new dynasty rise or another opportunity wasted. Sandy Brondello is available, Caitlin Clark is ready, and the basketball world is watching. The only question left is whether the Fever have the courage to make the move that everyone knows they should make.